Lost the whole stream unless this works. Let's see. Great. Can't even get back to the page I was on. Where the hell is live? There we go. All right. Listening to my own audio on headphones. Okay. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. God dang it. All right. I have to put this on. Let's see what happens. I got to put this on afterwards. All right. Gonna talk just to see if my talk-in works. Sorry about all the things. That seems to have fixed the problem. I don't know why I had this problem. I'm listening to myself now. All right. I just got to hit one more thing, and I think we're in business. God, what an absolute disaster. I'm going to leave that on. Guess I got to leave my headsets on. Okay. Anyhow, we were discussing about Stan Lee. I think Stan... It sounds good. Let me just shut off the sound. There we go. Stan Lee should get a statue. Yeah. Okay. Fixed it. Thank you, guys. Thanks for looking out. So Stan Lee should get a statue. And there's no doubt in my mind that on the Avengers compound, he should have a statue, possibly a big statue of him like stepping out of a comic book or something. But, Hollywood's going to put up a plaque. A plaque. What did that cost you? $100? Wow, Disney. A plaque. Anyhow, Star Trek actor George Takei calls on Americans to endure higher prices of food and gas if it means putting the screws to Putin. Of course, George Takei is a millionaire. They say he's only worth $10 million. That seems a little low. Give Stan Lee a plaque. Give Jack Kirby a statue. Yes. They give Jack Kirby nothing. He should have a statue, but I don't even know where you'd put it. It's not enough to put one at Disney. He was the king. Kirby was the king. Oh, man. Kirby's late stuff. You should read from Tops. I was very impressed by it. And I'm not easily impressed by creative stuff from other people. Being a writer myself, I'm very I got a very high bar, very, very snooty when it comes to other people's stuff. Unless I see you as a student, then I'm like, oh, well, I'll give you some help. But if I see you as a rival, I'm always like, well, let's see what you think is good. But man, Jack Kirby stuff blew me away. I mean, I couldn't believe how good it was. I picked up the Tops comic, and I'm just like, yeah, let's see what the old guy can do. And I was just like, wow. His dialogue was a little dated, but I mean, the guy was in his 70s at the time, and he was an older guy. But geez, that was the only thing. That was my only criticism of Tops comics that Jack Kirby did. They were phenomenal. Anyhow, George Takei, not phenomenal anymore. Probably worth, is he only worth $10 million? I mean, that seems low. Seems to me like he would have gotten, obviously for the original TV show, he didn't get rich on because nobody did back then. But the movies, I think he was in all the movies, right? With the original cast with Shatner. Or was he not in the first one? The very first one in the 80s? Don't remember. No, he was. Wasn't he a captain? Or I'm thinking of the second one, I think. So he was at least in 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, probably. I didn't see 6. 6 looked terrible. Plus all the other stuff he would have done on the side connected to Star Trek. All the royalties, you're telling me he's only worth $10 million? I mean, I guess that's possible. You would think he'd get probably a couple of mil each movie. He was on Howard Stern for years, could clean up at conventions. He certainly could. And I'm sure he's done some, the creation ones for the big Star Trek things. I don't think he got any money from appearing on Howard Stern. Man's got expensive taste. Well, I mean, when you're making that kind of money, I guess, your overhead goes up. So I guess 10 million's about right. I mean, I guess people are looking at celebrity net worth, but that's a little high. I'm on there. My celebrity net worth was like, I don't know, $500,000 or something. I was like, wow. Gee whiz. Wish I was. Wish I wasn't poor, starving writer guy. I wish I was celebrity net worth guy. But still, I mean, he ain't gonna be starving, So, let's all pay higher prices. You pay higher prices, dude. I mean, send $1 million to the Ukraine if that's what you want to do. But I don't think he should be asking people to suck it up for a war in the Ukraine that nobody really wants. It's just, I won't say it's unconscionable, but it's lame. It's absolutely lame. Another headline, at least 22 injured in brawl at Mexican soccer match. Yeah, soccer is like crazy. It's like, I didn't understand it, for the longest time. I was just like, soccer? Nobody watches soccer. But that was just in America. Like, nobody here likes, there's a few people who like soccer. When the World Cup comes, everybody becomes a soccer fan here for like a week. And then it goes away and everybody forgets about it. But, around the world, it's like, that's like their football. And they even call it football. They even call it football. Hi, hope you have a great day. Freaking Ape Live. Thank you, Freaking Ape. Welcome. Sorry about the technical difficulties. It's like a religion in some places. Yeah. So when you hear about a brawl at a soccer match, you're like, at first you're like, what? And then you realize, oh, right. People care about that in other countries. But man, and then Mexico, it's like, they love it. They love soccer. So that must have been some brawl. CNN, ABC, CBS, BBC, Bloomberg cease Russian broadcasting arms. This is from Breitbart. I think this is a complete useless thing to do, to cut off RT. RT is it's Russia Today. And for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you do. It's like, Why cut these people off? I mean, you want to hear what they're saying, you know? Makes us look weak, I think. Makes us look very weak. Oh, we don't want to hear what the other side's saying. They might say something good about themselves and people might believe it. You know, this complete and utter pathetic attempt to demonize the Russians, like, you know, they're just suddenly evil. Oh my God, the Russians are so evil. Look, the Russians aren't, you know, they're people. The Russian people are just people. The Russian government is pretty much like any other government, just screwing over the little guy and trying to make the rich richer. Excuse me. But that all being said, you know, I take the Russians over the Chinese any day. Sending love from India. India. Well, right back at you. Government is S everywhere. Yes, it certainly is, freaking ape. It certainly is. I don't know much about the government in India. I don't know. I couldn't tell you much. But you know, we should be doing more business with India. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the people who get screwed. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Russia's no different. You know, we're having I mean, it's not even a disagreement with them. They're having a disagreement with the Ukraine. And I don't want to go through the history again, but, you know, we did that last week. It's a bad history between them and the Ukraine. But the Ukrainians got the worst of it by far. But it doesn't make the Ukrainian government good. And these people who just throw in with the Ukrainians, oh my God, yeah, what happened to COVID? What happened to that? I gotta be careful what I say on that front, right? Oh, another newbie. Let's see. Hello, 1982 Obsidian. Thank you. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah. So the narrative on the beer virus seems to be gone. Everybody's lifting the mandates. Like suddenly, oh, we got something bigger to worry about. Apparently, when the Democratic talking point is needed, you know, the virus just goes away magically. Media going all war is nothing compared to no one wearing masks. Yeah. Yeah. Although yesterday I was in Philly doing birthday stuff with the fam and had a nice meal. And we ended up going to a coffee place afterwards. And get to the coffee place. Now, in Pennsylvania, the state has lifted mandates. The city has lifted mandates. So there's absolutely no mandates. And I knew this going into the city because I checked for the restaurant that we went to. And we get to this coffee shop and they're like, oh, no, you got to wear a mask. They're all masked up. And I'm like, no. I mean, it's easy to say no now. I'm not portraying myself as a hero here. And quite frankly, I had a mask in case the restaurant gave me problems because it was a family thing and I didn't want to make that big of a stink. But I was annoyed, you know, for coffee, I'm going to put on a mask. No, stupid. And it was a nice day on top of that. Like, these people do not know science. Just a bunch of scared hipsters. God, Joe, your breath. I can smell your breath from here. We got to get that groomer on the phone. The president of the Ukraine starred in a show called In the Service of the People, a comedy about a teacher whose YouTube rants go viral and ends up elected president. It ran for 4 seasons. Wow. That's funny. Wow. Imagine him being your president. Imagine a guy, or you're saying I could be president. Yeah. Imagine me being president. Oh my God. That would be crazy. I thought about it. not about running, just about, the fantasy of being president. What would I do? I've had many plans in this area, but they've changed over the years. My main plan would be to shut down all the military bases around the world that the United States has. I would just shut them all down. I would start with Guantanamo. I'd probably have to do a bunch of other stuff before I got to that, but Guantanamo would be top of the list. Shut that down. What would I do with all the people? At this point, I just ship them all home. Who cares? They're probably, after being in Guantanamo for over 20 years, do you think you got it enough together to commit terrorist acts? I don't think you do. I think those guys are probably gone. They'd be lucky to be able to walk. I'd free Julian Assange. Everybody would be mad at me, of course. You think they're mad at Trump? Oh my God. Respect to you keeping it down for the sake of your family. It was just me on my own. I'd say thank you for informing me. I'd take my business elsewhere. Well, I did walk out in a huff. I just went, meh, left. After the show ended, he started his own party called In the Service of the People Party and was elected. The entire thing was bankrolled by a Ukrainian billionaire living in Sweden. Well, I mean, so far he seems like an okay guy, I guess. But I think, him being an actor, he's probably very westernized. And Zelensky wants a very Western style of democracy. He's probably very progressive. I mean, I saw a clip of the music video he was in. He was like in tight leather pants dancing around, but he was a comedic actor. So I don't hold it against him or anything, but it's just funny. And he's probably very westernized. He probably wants to be part of the European Union and, he wants to bring the Ukraine up, but the Russians absolutely need warm water ports, and they're not going to sit on their hands. So what he needed to do was stay neutral. He needed to stay neutral for another probably 20 years. And maybe at the end of 20 years, it wouldn't even matter. But, a lot of this is on the U.S., though. A lot of it's on the U.S. The United States could have made this completely peaceful. They could have signed the agreement, which we already agreed to. We already agreed that we wouldn't expand NATO. And I'm getting on the Ukraine now. We already agreed we wouldn't expand NATO. Then we did. Then we basically agreed, well, we're not going to add Ukraine, even though we flipped the government. We're not going to add the Ukrainians. We helped flip the government, I should say. So, Putin's got a reason. I mean, this is like if the Chinese took over Mexico and wanted to put missiles there, we'd be flipping out. He doesn't want us there. He doesn't want Ukraine and Mexico and missiles on its border. He doesn't want that. So the smart thing would have been, okay, Ukraine is neutral. We're not going to let them into NATO. And then if Russia rolled in anyway, well, then you'd be perfectly justified. The world would be totally on board with that. But guess what? The Russians wouldn't have rolled in. They wouldn't have rolled in. They already had the Crimea, and that would have been it. Now, would the Russian separatists continue their activities? Absolutely, because they're all Russians. They're really Russians, and that's a whole thing. I mean, the Soviets spent decades pushing Russians into the Ukraine, pushing all the Ukrainians west. This is the result. It's a very complicated thing. He ran on getting Ukraine into the EU and NATO. Well, there you go. He was shutting down TV stations and newspapers who crossed him. Oh, no. Right now, he's disappearing his critics under the fog of war. Well, yeah, that's bad if true. If that's true. I mean, is it? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But an actor being able to do this, yeah, I don't buy that he's doing it. I think probably we're doing it. I mean, we run the planet. We've got guys everywhere. and our intelligence, you know, a mayor from a small town, I think that you meant, who came out as pro-Russia was shot through the heart and dumped in the street. Oof. Yeah, I wouldn't speak up in the Ukraine right now. I mean, but again, that doesn't mean Zelensky's doing it. It's very possible that one of the locals got mad. I mean, look at the history of the Ukraine. The Ukrainians hate the Russians. They hate them. So if I had been old enough, I mean, at my age, I wouldn't have been old enough to remember World War II. I wouldn't have been born yet, but I certainly would have known people in World War II. And those survivors would have had horrific stories about those times. I wouldn't have been a fan living under the guys who took over for Stalin. And so I'm certain, yeah, I'd kill every Russian I could if I was a Ukrainian. I'd be like, oh, finally, payback's a B. Let's do this. I'd be stealing tanks, blowing up things. Oh, yeah. I'd be dead. I'd be dead. I would have turned on a dime like, yeah, let's go, baby. And probably would have got myself killed. But, you know, I don't know if Zelensky can coordinate that. I think that's just, there's probably too many people and too many things to coordinate. No, he's a total puppet for a billionaire who bankrolled everything. Is calling the shots. The billionaire tried to run for president himself and failed. The actor guy was his plan B. Well, it looks good, you know. If that's being pulled, the strings are being pulled through a Russian or a Ukrainian billionaire, I guarantee you our guys are pulling his strings. Yeah. Because otherwise we'd take care of that. I mean, this is what the CIA does. Do you think for a second we'd tolerate a billionaire financing a war on his own if we didn't clear that? No, it would stop immediately. His funds would dry up or somebody would kill him. He'd meet with an accident. I mean, this is what the CIA does. You wouldn't be dead. You see that video of the young woman having fun learning how to drive a military truck? Great fun. I don't know about fun when you're living in a war zone. I mean, it looked fun in the video. I'll say that. Yeah, billionaire probably has CIA links. I guarantee you he does. And he probably doesn't even know it, you know? And that's really the beauty of espionage, if you could call it beauty. It's like you go through a guy and go through a guy and go through a guy, and that's how you pull the strings of the world. I mean, understand that for a long time, the CIA recruited from Ivy League schools, the brightest of the brightest. I don't know where they're getting people now. And our guys don't even go anywhere anymore. They used to be on the ground doing stuff. There's a book about the CIA. I forget what it's called. I didn't read it, of course, but I read a lot of synopsis and interviews with him. And he talks about how our spies don't go anywhere anymore. Their career is they sit at home. And then they outsource it to guys, and then they outsource it to guys. Good luck getting it back to us, you know? How do you think these people gain vast wealth? Palming the correct hands with silver. It makes an invirtuous circle where everyone owes each other and uses each other's secrets as a form of security. Yeah, I mean, I think in the case of a Ukrainian billionaire, it's most likely he bought up. He had some money. He was probably in the party, you know, had resources, or was just outside of the Ukraine and made money outside of the Ukraine somehow, and then came back and took his money and bought up the state's resources when the Soviet Union collapsed, which a lot of oligarchs did. And then, you know, he bought it for like nothing and then now runs it. I mean, so imagine buying being Bart Simpson and buying the factory for $1, except the factory works and everybody needs this stuff. You know, you just roll in there and suddenly you're making millions and millions and millions of dollars every day. So, But these guys are half gangster and half businessmen, because you kind of have to be that way in the Baltic states. You know, I had a friend of a friend who did business there, and it's crazy. It's crazy what you go through. I mean, he had to confront a business partner over some, I don't know, some deal. And this guy's like half Chinese. And he said, you know, it got very tense. He thought they might send guys over to his place to kill him because it got so heated. And he ended up like, I don't know, it was this long story about him changing hotels and guys looking for him. And turned out he wasn't targeted, but you know, the guy talked like he would have. And this is Russia and Ukraine and the Baltic states. I mean, you could disappear. Yeah, you could disappear. And yeah, that's the end of you. So, but I mean, but think about that. That's wild gangster stuff, right? These guys drop dead all the time. You know, a lot of people point back to Russia and saying that they killed that guy with plutonium, the guy they radioactively killed, you know, using radio. They poisoned him with like sushi and radioactivity somehow. But they blame that on the Russians because the kind of radioactivity it was, which was super deadly, you know, was only from a uranium that was highly processed. Is that the guy's name? Novichok or whatever the hell he was. I forget. But like that would be like killing a guy and leaving a calling card. You've just been killed by the Russians, because, you know, it to me, it smelled like a frame up from the beginning, right? That they would kill a guy and such. I mean, there's so many ways to kill a guy, right? You don't need to like poison them with radioactivity. And the Russians aren't about sending a message. They don't need to. They're not, you know. Yeah, here it is. Polonium-210, Alexander Levenko. They poisoned him in his tea? Oh, in his tea. I thought it was in his sushi. Well, who's Novichok then? Ignore the Novichok bit. Getting confused with another Russian state poisoning. Wow, right. Well, there's that other guy. Who was he? During the Orange Revolution, who he either pretended to be poisoned or had like mildly poisoned himself, or God, I want to say Georgia, or was that the Ukraine? I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, like, did the Russians do it? I guess they might have, but it's also true we don't really know who poisoned him. So it could be us, because it was a big calling card to leave, is my point. And it was immediately blamed on the Russians. And look, I don't like the Russians. I don't want to live in Russia. It sucks. But that all being said, I also don't want World War III. I'd like to have peace with the Russians, because I think if we had peace, they got a lot of land, we could exploit it and build them McDonald's and crap like that and westernize them all and make tons of money. So to poison someone important, it seems like they would want to send a message, like you say, gangster behavior. Yeah, I guess. But like, look, if a guy dies, everybody asks why, you know, especially a guy who was murdered. So, I mean, to make it so obvious it was you, you know, you must be worried that somebody else is going to take credit for it. This guy, I don't think so. I don't think it really sends the right message if you want it to be Russia. If you wanted it to be Russia, like, the guy would just disappear. Like, he would just disappear from the face of the earth and no one would ever hear from him again. That to me is scarier than like poisoning the guy and letting him die in the hospital and badmouth you in the press for months and months and months. Like, a guy disappearing and like no one's heard from him ever again. They have no idea what happened to him. He got on a plane. No one ever saw him again. That to me is scarier, but I don't know. Anyhow, the overall arching theme of this is I think we should stay out of the Ukraine, stay out of the business, let the Russians and the Ukrainians fight it out. The Ukrainians are going to lose, but they're going to fight it. And this way, you prop up the Ukrainians, you're going to end up with, look, if Zelensky dies, which I don't think the Russians want to kill him. But let's say he dies. Who's going to take over? It'll probably be some general. Could be one of the Nazi generals they have. They have Nazis in their ranks. Okay, it would have been different if Zelensky came in and said, no more Nazis. Then maybe you could argue, well, got rid of the Nazis, but you can't in the Ukraine because of the situation. So, and I'm not saying all Ukrainians are Nazis, but I'm saying you have a Nazi problem that needs to be addressed before you get money. Okay? So the last thing we want is for the Ukrainians to lose Zelensky, or Zelensky, I don't know, flees to Poland and some Nazi general takes over. You want that? I don't think we want that. You need to promote your live streams on Lotus Eaters. That's where from. That's where I know you're from. You're a great guy. Thank you. And your takes are very interesting. Hopefully to see you again on Monday. Gotta run. Thanks for tuning in, Obsidian. Thank you. See you on Monday. Yeah. I'll have to mention my live streams. I don't know. I'm just getting them started. Trying to get the flow of this thing. I had to start this one early. So maybe I'll mention it because Monday is going to be a self-promoter. I'm going to do a lot of self-promotion on Monday. So I did for those of you who don't watch the Lotus Eaters, I do a video comment every day just about on the Lotus Eaters. They let you do 30 seconds. And I usually do stuff on the Pineys and South Jersey stuff. And book 8 available. Links in the description. So, but so this week I did, instead of Legends of South Jersey, which I normally did, I did a week of the Legends of Swindon, which is where the Lotus Eaters are based out of in England. And so I talked about ghost stories in Swindon, and I found 5 of them, 5 pretty good ones. I think it was like a haunted mansion or castle or manor house, whatever they have in England. They have them all. A few other ghosts, a really cool haunted pub, which I would love to go to. They have this haunted pub. The Swindon Ghost videos were funny. Thank you. They had it's called the Red Lion, which oddly enough, there's a South Jersey town called Red Lion, but they still have this well, and supposedly this guy caught his wife with another man at the pub, and so he killed her and threw her down the well. And the well's still there, and they turned it into a little table so you can have lunch there and look down the well where this woman's body is, I guess. But supposedly her ghost is there, and then they apparently killed this guy right after he killed his wife, which, you figure in the 1700s they'd all just look up and go, well, she cheated on him. But no, I mean, I don't know who the guy was he got mad at. Maybe he bit off more than he could chew. That's so creepy. Yeah, it is kind of creepy, but it's kind of cool. For me, I'd be like, I got to sit at the well table. I'll wait, somebody's at the well table. Okay, I'll wait. Can I get on the well table list so I can sit there? And there was actually a bunch of stuff I never got to. They actually, at that same bar, and this is how old England is, they have Neolithic stones. I believe it's at that same bar. Yeah. Neolithic stones, like Stonehenge, but not Stonehenge. Some other stones in Avebury, I think it was called. So you got Neolithic stones. You've got stuff, a bar that's like from, I think it was built in the 1600s. A story from the 1700s. I mean, that's crazy amount of history in England. Just crazy amounts. So I'd love it. And then the last one I did, Fridays, was probably my favorite. There was an exorcism performed in Swindon of a ghost. It bothered this family. And so the BBC back in the 70s had a TV show about that kind of stuff. And so they did a live exorcism on the air. So they had a priest come down and do an exorcism, and they got rid of the ghost. And a haunted fire station. That was the one that almost got Callum, because Callum apparently lives not far from the fire station and sees it every day. So apparently the haunted fire station, you got the haunted fire station, and I forget the last one, but yeah, it was a good week. Good week on the Lotus Eaters. Thanks for getting me off the Ukraine. Let's get to the next headline. WNBA star detained in Russia on drug charges. Right back to the Ukraine. This is why, banning opera singers and whatnot. Callum's reactions were great. Yeah, it was funny. This is why the whole Ukraine thing, banning opera singers and musical conductors and vodka that's not even made in Russia, and kicking people off of Xbox is woke-tarded, because it's like, you got an NBA star who's having a little trouble. I guess what did she get caught with? Drugs? Yeah, probably got caught with pot or something. Now, will the Russians let her go, or it's going to cause a big to-do? And now we got to negotiate to get her release. It's like, yeah. Meanwhile, we're still buying oil from the Russians. It's totally woke-tarded. I know what I wanted to talk about today. The Batman. I got to tell this story. I'm not seeing the Batman now. I've decided. As much as it hurts me to want to see the Batman, Russian cats banned from competitions. Yep, that's another thing. It's stupid. So stupid. But I've decided I'm not seeing the Batman in theaters, at least. I'm going to wait until HBO. It'll be on HBO Max, and I got it for free, so I'll just watch it there. But I got up, and I said, let me go see the Batman tonight. Now, I'd heard the rumors that they were going to charge extra for the damn movie. And I said, maybe that's just a rumor, but certainly the expensive movies in New Jersey do not have the guts to charge me an extra $1. And I'm going to complain if they do. So I went into the theater, and they're showing this movie on 3 screens at least, because they have viewing times a half an hour apart. I think actually more than that, probably 4. How many? I mean, they're showing the movie a half an hour spaces. So the movie's 3 hours long. They must be showing it on 6 screens. I don't know. But the place is empty. It's literally empty. And I walk right up to the cashier. And I'm like, he's like, do you want to see a movie? Yeah, I want to see the Batman. I said, you're not charging extra for this movie, are you? And he looks and he's like, oh, sorry. Yeah, we are charging $1 extra. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I said, you're going to charge me an extra $1 for this movie? Now, I really couldn't complain too much unless I wanted to get the manager out. But even he, what's he going to do? He might have waived it to let me go in. But you know what? I was just so pissed off in that moment. I said, you know what? No. And I just walked out. I'm not paying an extra $1, especially after I heard the reviews on this thing. I hear it's not bad, runs out of gas in the 3rd act, which for a 3-hour movie, that's almost inevitable. It's too long. It's too long. End the damn movie at 90 minutes, please. Maybe you go 2 hours. Maybe you start pushing 2 hours, but you got to get it under 2. This movie's 3 hours long. You're not going to be able to end it correctly at 3 hours. The movie's 3 hours long. That's essentially an hour an act. First act, an hour. Second act, an hour. Third act, an hour. That's too long. I've only seen one movie. Yeah, exactly my question. What is the extra $1 for? Okay? I don't like this precedent at all. Okay? Now you're going to charge extra. Oh, it's a good movie. We're charging you an extra $1. F you. I'm not paying that extra $1. No. I'm not paying that. Yeah, I don't want to sit through a 3-hour Batman movie. I wasn't excited for it to begin with. Well, I'm like a huge Batman fan. And like a lot of people, I am sick of the not Batman shows they have on television. I'm sick to death of them. I don't watch them because they piss me off. Like, how many more shows are you going to build around not having Batman show up? Oh, I mean, what next? My friend in comics pitched the funniest thing. It was he wanted to do a comic about Batman's accountant and how like he had to write off all the money that Bruce Wayne was spending on these crazy things. That could be another show. Superman greater than Batman. Well, that's a discussion. I'd get into that discussion. Obviously Superman's more powerful, but given enough time and resources, Batman always wins. Batman's smarter. You got to give him the smarts. Problem with Superman, he's too nice. You can trick him. Magic doesn't work. Golden Age Superman, yes. Yes, I will give you that. Golden Age Superman was different. He was smarter. Current Age Superman, he's always a little dopey. He's always made out to be the Boy Scout. Golden Age Superman wasn't like that. He was a little more just normal guy. It's a little more 1940s. Hello, I'm Superman. I can move the sun. Actually, he wasn't even that strong. Superman could just leap over tall buildings. He the physics of Superman in the Golden Age was a little off, but quite frankly, the whole thing of Superman flying doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Basically it's like for him, the earth is the moon and he could jump but he's super strong and like he could fly somehow. Somehow he doesn't go flying off the earth when he jumps. He could somehow jump on an angle and then like somehow really he could just fly. That's the bottom line. Golden Age Superman was a fraction as powerful as exactly. The whole sun thing wasn't a thing. If you listen to the old radio, I heard the old radio one on a car ride once, and the origin was different. Like he wasn't raised on Earth. He grew up in a pod on the way to Earth. And like the radio one, he's just immediately at the Daily Planet just about. He could speak English, like even though he was raised in a pod and on the way to Earth, and it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different vibe on Golden Age Superman. But I still say Batman's superior because he's weaker physically. They finally dropped I guess I could say this, Vax Pass here. Probably will end up seeing Spider-Man before I go see Batman. Spider-Man's really good. Spider-Man is really good. I recommend it. Did not weaken in the third act. In fact, the third act is the strongest part of it. It's really good. It's so big on fan service. If you're a fan of Spider-Man, you'll love it. Batman v Superman. They should have switched Bruce Wayne with Lex Luthor and just made it a Superman movie. It would have been way better. Well, I guess there's so many problems with the Zack Snyder Batman. First off, he shouldn't kill people. Should have never done that. It's dumb. There was no reason. He gained absolutely nothing from that, in my view. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Not seeing it. Dumb. I would have cast an older actor. That's a perfect chance to cast an older guy. Lex Luthor was always older than Batman. Was always kind of bald, evil old man. And there's so many great older actors with gravitas, and you could have cast so many different people. Somebody with a deep voice. Hey, you could have cast Idris Elba, shave his head, make him be Lex Luthor. With his voice, he'd been scary as F. Anybody, so many people. Snyder couldn't do the buff Lex Luthor because there were already two buff dudes in the movie. Yeah, no, I don't want to buff Lex Luthor. No. I don't want a buff guy. I mean, I know Idris Elba. He's not old enough. He's not old enough. So I was just thinking in terms of the voice. Somebody like who would be perfect? I mean, bald guys, you could do Patrick Stewart. I mean, he's the right age, ultimately. But I think he's been in too many of those movies. And quite frankly, I'm annoyed at him for Picard. So probably wouldn't have cast him. Somebody, you know what? What's his face? Oh, God. Taken dude. What's his face? God, I can't think of the name. Give me the name. Mr. Taken, Mr. Rob Roy, Mr. Ian. I'll say Ian. What the hell's his name? Lex as internet tech billionaire was an interesting idea, but fell flat in the movie. Yeah, look, that's not Lex. He's not an internet billionaire. He is an inventor. He's an old school inventor that was just brilliant. He's more like Robert Downey's character in Iron Man. Liam, that's it. Liam Neeson. I don't know what I was thinking it. Liam Neeson. There you go. Lex Luthor, Liam Neeson. Shave his head, lose the facial hair. He'd look completely different. People would be freaking out. Oh my God, that's Liam Neeson? He could do it. Yeah, he'd be mean too. He could pull it off. He's an actor. He's a good actor. And he's got a little bit of, fight to him. So he can't fight Superman hand to hand. But if you put him in that armor and then he's fighting Superman, that's all you need to do is introduce the Lex Luthor crazy suit of armor that he invents. But yeah, you got to play him as an evil version of Tony Stark, an evil version, except without the drinking and the fun. He's just a vicious, evil man. I could see that. Yep, I think so. Lex started out as a mad scientist. Yep, in the comics until they turned him into Donald Trump in the 80s. Yeah, dumb. I don't mind the idea of updating the character, but what they did was lame. Yeah, I don't know, but there's something to be said for doing the mad scientist thing, I think there's something to be said for keeping it. Look, I get why they don't go back to the golden age. That's tough unless you're going to do a period piece. If you did a period piece, it'd be even cooler. But yeah, I understand they're going to update it somewhat, but you don't want to update everything. I think you want to hit like a happy balance, But for Lex Luthor, it's always for me, Gene Hackman. To me, Gene Hackman will always be Lex Luthor. Bill Burr is Lex Luthor. Now that would be hilarious. Oh, you're just going to come in here and punch through one of my walls? You know what that cost me? That'd be pretty funny. That's not a bad suggestion. He's already bald. What do you think about Smallville? I didn't really watch it. It felt like a not Superman show. Is the problem with Smallville. Originally, it was supposed to be a Batman show. Well, it was probably a not Batman show. Can we do another show where Batman doesn't show up and everybody talks about him or hints that he may appear at some point in the future time? Ugh. Drives me nuts. But yeah, the Zack Snyder thing. The problem is Zack Snyder, right? Zack Snyder, kind of like Michael Bay, although I think Michael Bay's a decent storyteller in certain movies and not bad even in his crappy movies. But Zack to me is just not a storyteller. He doesn't care about the story at all. I can see from was it Army of the Dead? Is that the name of the movie? Army of the Dead, I think it's called. That Dave Bautista thing. Maybe we can do a not Star Wars show. Yeah, it's pretty much what every Star Wars show is, right? A not Luke Skywalker show, a not a Chewbacca show. But that Army of the Dead movie, I could tell just by watching the visuals, You know, this movie started with the like somebody drawing a picture of that undead tiger standing on top of a pile of rubble in front of Las Vegas hotel. Like that is such a Hollywood pitch. And having undead showgirls in the background and whatnot. That's such a Hollywood pitch. And don't get me wrong, it's a great visual and it's even a good pitch, but you got to have a story behind it. Funniest thing that I read recently was a guy on the IMDb suggesting they do a Luke Skywalker spinoff. Oh, dear God, no. Look, I mean, to me, Star Wars is dead. I'm done with Star Wars. It's an absolute train wreck. You know, people keep trying to prop it up. They tried to prop up Boba Fett, and what did that get you? It got you a show that was sort of had potential. Oh no, it embarrassed us with hipster hover bikes. It's just done. They've effed it up too badly. So what? Just let it go. Look, I can come up with Star Wars crap all day long. I mean, it's not Star Wars. It would be something else. But, you know, there are a million creators out there. They've got millions of ideas. We don't need this. If they just put their money into anything else, brand new, just build it up. You don't have the baggage of Star Wars. You don't have the baggage of The Last Jedi and all the crap movies that they made, stuff they tried to spin off of it. But, you know, Disney spent $1 billion, was it? $2 billion on acquiring Star Wars. They're going to make Star Wars stuff until you literally are standing outside the Disney offices holding signs saying no more Star Wars, no more Star Wars. The Knights of the Old Republic game was so good because it expanded on the morality connected with the Force, doing unlocks and Force powers. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, once in a while, something goes right. But I watched The Force Awakens in theaters. I thought it was a piece of S and swore off watching anything more of this Disney Star Wars stuff. Haven't watched anything since. Good for you. Dear God, $4 billion? It was $4 billion? Too much. Too much. Too much. George Lucas then regretted the sale anyway. That's the guy who messed this up. I hate to tell you. In my opinion, the guy who screwed this all up was George. He screwed it up. He screwed it up. He screwed it up before they even sold it. The prequels, in my view, terrible. I didn't walk out of it, but at the end of the Phantom Menace, I came out of the theaters and I went, done. It was bad. It's a bad movie in my view. Now, compared to The Last Jedi, it's Citizen Kane, but that's not saying much. The Last Jedi is awful. It's painful. Exactly. The prequels ruined Star Wars. And here, I'll tell, in case you missed my video on it, I'll tell you exactly the moment where George ruined everything. It's in the Phantom Menace, in the opening scene, midichlorians. Done. Over. Ruined. Midichlorians make 0 sense. They destroy everything that was great about Star Wars. George Lucas should have just recut the new trilogy to make it better. I mean, that's what he likes to do in his free time, is nibbling with SW. Yeah. Well, I don't blame him to some extent. I mean, like me, he's an artist and you like to fiddle with the old stuff sometimes. I just fixed some typos in the Pineys and tweaked a couple of sentences, and I kept tweaking and tweaking, and then finally I had to stop myself and just put it back out there. So if you download the Pineys #1, it's version 1.2 now. But, you know, and then there was the story of Frank Frazetta, who had a cover from Eerie magazine that he had published, or they had published back, I don't know, in the 60s, and this was in the 2000s. He still had it in his studio, and he was still painting and making it more and more perfect. I would love to see that painting. That was the legend. A friend of mine got to visit Frank in his studio one time and told me about it. But yeah, I mean, the moment he introduced midichlorians, what it did was it took the Force which was this esoteric thing. It was universal. It was beyond even the futuristic Star Wars that had droids and lasers and all this technology, and yet there was the Force. It was way beyond that. If you're not tapped into the Force, all that technology means nothing. And that was the amazing thing about the Force. And this was in the 70s when those sort of ideas, people were a little more open to them. The second George says, oh, no, they're midichlorians and they're inside your body and that's how we figure out and blah, blah, blah. No, what it should have been like, it should have been Qui-Gon, Jin-Jong, whatever his name was, and Obi-Wan. They're on the planet and Qui-Gon goes, do you sense that? I'm sensing a powerful force person or whatever. And then they go and they find Anakin. But of course, Obi-Wan is like, no, I sense a great darkness in him. And Qui-Gon is like, no, he's the chosen one. Like it should have all been like their feelings, because that's what it was set up. It should have been beyond the understanding of the lay person. Only the Jedi have these senses, and that's what makes the Jedi amazing. And it would have been great. And you could have eliminated the midichlorians easily. Wouldn't have impacted the movie whatsoever in terms of the production or whatever. But in terms of the story, it would have made it 90 times better. 99 times better. Now, there are other problems with the movie, too, but that's the main one. And the moment they did midichlorians, I think Lucas betrayed his own vision. Cartoonist Kayfabe Guys talks about visiting Frank Vizetta's museum he ran with his wife. Yep, that's the one. He had a stroke and couldn't paint with his right hand, so he taught himself to paint with his left hand. Yep, he was a genius. Frazetta was the man. If you read the first drafts of Star Wars, George always used his fancy sci-fi stuff. Midichlorians was not an accident. Star Wars itself probably was. Yeah, probably. And I suspect that, because the best one is Return, The Empire Strikes Back, right? Empire Strikes Back is the best one. And that one felt like, at the time, you had Hollywood guys who were able to sort of, there's certain guys in Hollywood, they need to be on a leash and you pull them back and you force them into a little bit of story or whatever. And I think that's what they did with The Empire Strikes Back. And in that particular case, it worked great. That just happened to be the nexus of Hollywood and talent coming together at the perfect time. Now, if you look at a guy like Zack Snyder, he should have been on a leash. Hollywood should have put him on a leash and said, no, Zach, you have to have a good writer. You need a good writer. Here's a writer. You have to follow his instructions. Follow his story. If they had done that and put somebody, I don't even know who you could have gotten. My go-to guy is always Shane Black. Shane Black is the man. He writes great scripts. Now, would he write a superhero thing? That's not really his wheelhouse, but his take on it probably would have been amazing for the Justice League or Army of the Dead. He could have done Army of the Dead. Absolutely. That would have been fine. There's not a lot of great screenwriters left. Maybe Quentin Tarantino would have been fun. Especially, again, for Army of the Dead, he would have been great. For Justice League, no. It's like The Matrix. You need crazy artist guys, but you also need the leash. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, the Wachowskis are out of control. They should have been stopped from making The Matrix 4. You should have just pulled them aside and said, listen, we get it. You're trans, and you want to make a movie about trans people. Trying to make retroactively fit The Matrix into the trans narrative isn't going to be a hit. And therefore, your message isn't going to get out. So make a new movie. That's what I would have said to them. But what are you going to do? The fierce, apathetic Black Queen. Yo, welcome. Welcome, Queen. So, yeah, some guys need to be on a short leash. And I think Lucas is one of those guys. He didn't need to be on a short leash. Star Wars was pretty good. But that was also, you got to understand the times. That was the 1970s. This is the late 70s. We're coming out of the renaissance of American cinema. Some of the greatest movies ever made are made during this time. So the bar is super high, and George is just sort of competing with what's out there. I wish Neo took both pills in Matrix 4 and they made a super crazy drug trip movie. I just wish they never made Matrix 4. Honestly, there was absolutely no reason for it. I saw all 3 Matrix movies, and I talk about this all the time. I've never before or since seen a movie in which people walked out during the climax of the movie. That was Matrix 3. The movie, they're having fight scenes. It's the end of the movie. People are walking out. I've never seen that before. It was crazy. They were bored. That's how bad that movie is. They were yawning like, oh, I can't watch any more of this. They didn't care. By the end of that movie, no one cared about Neo or Trinity or anything. They just wanted to get out of the damn movie. My friends wanted to leave too. And I'm like, but we only got 5 minutes left. Like, I wanted to sit through it just at that point. I wanted to see the end of this train wreck. But, you know, it was, and really the Wachowskis should have been stopped at Matrix 2 and said, this screenplay is a disaster. You've messed this all up. This doesn't look like the first one. What are you doing here? You know, the problems with the Matrix started with the Matrix 2. The first movie's great. It's perfect. Probably should have ended there. Okay, you want to do a franchise? Fine. But you got to start with what happened in 1. And they kind of ignored some of that. You know, I mean, there were some ideas in 2 that were pretty good. And even in 3. But the execution, it all goes back to writing. It all goes back to the story. The moment you ignore that, it's over. It's over. It's done. And people don't really see it because it is possible to give fan service without giving a story. But it's the same thing how Avatar, The Last Airbender to Korra series until Nick destroyed it. Yeah, I didn't follow The Last Airbender, but I know the lore that I believe, what is it? The cartoon's great, and the live action movie, like, you want to kill yourself. So, yeah, I mean, some people just don't get it. Welcome. Oh, wait, that's the queen. I said welcome to her already. Neo should have been the mentor character. There were some ideas of it in the Animatrix, but never followed through. Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways you could have made it work, but, you know, ultimately the idea of Neo happening, you know, it was all part of the plan. That would have been cool. The Last Airbender movie sucks. Yeah, that's the live action one, right? I don't know. You know, it all comes back to money. You know, when the studio gets involved, there's millions of dollars at stake, and it only takes one weak guy to step in and go, no, I know better. You do this. And I run things, so you have to listen to me. But if they don't let the talent do what they have to do, and what you have to understand, talent is, all sequels these days suck. I don't know. The Marvel movies were good, and a lot of them were sequels. Now they suck, I think, but you know, I'd rather have a sequel than a prequel. Prequels suck. I've yet to see a prequel that I went, wow, this is an amazing prequel. It's although I'll say the Kingsman looked, that prequel looked promising. At least the look of it did. Why the Last Man series was an S-storm? It certainly was. I read all about that. I mean, that's another whole thing. Now that's what I meant. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, why the Last Man? Let me get a sip here. It wasn't that great of a comic, quite frankly. And, you know, I said at the time it was kind of the ultimate feminist dream. All the men are dead, except one, and then we bother him. And we pick on him. He has no choice. He's the last man. Maybe Avatar 2 will be good. Oh, God. I don't think so. I didn't like Avatar 1. Giant robot with a knife. No, thank you. No, thank you. Dumb movie that is. I hated Avatar. Sorry. Not on the Avatar train at all. You know, Cameron was great. Terminator 2, fantastic. Fantastic movie. Terminator 1, great movie too. But Avatar, no. No, 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 no. So many derivative things in Avatar. It's just dumb. You know, Dances with Smurfs. But yeah, Why the Last Man? The comic was a mess, in my view. Although it was popular. As a comic, it worked. Bad news, Avatar, The Last Airbender, live action movie is going to be more woken than even you thought. Yikes. Sure, everything's woke now, depending on the studio it's coming out of. I mean, you know, other than like the Daily Wire and a handful of more conservative, I'll say, studios, you know, it's all going to be woke, or there's a good chance it could be woke, because that's what everybody's going for these days. Their ESG score, trying to keep their ESG score up. Everybody gotta be, you know, woke. I met Netflix rebooting the Avatar. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, Netflix goes back and forth now. They seem to have turned kind of a weird corner with the Dave Chappelle thing. So they're kind of woke. They were full born woke, but now they're kind of like, wait a minute, you know, maybe there's some money on the other side of this. I like some of Brian K. Vaughan's comics, but he's become insufferable on social media, bopping around LA with his little dog named Milkshake, telling people to get medical procedures. Oh, really? He's telling people that? Yeah, don't like that. I always thought he was a little full of himself, quite frankly. But, you know, the comic wasn't awful. It just, to me, it struck me, you know, this is way before the TV show. It struck me as immediately, oh, this is another feminist comic about, you know, how wonderful women are, how awful men are. And yet, what happens in Why the Last Man? Oh, God, we don't have any men. I am independent, not conservative, but I am anti-woke. Yeah, most people are. Yeah, good for you. Good for you, Queen. Most people with most people who are, they're not emotionally invested in the other side. They get red pilled. And how do you get red pilled? Well, you either are just smart enough to look at things and go, oh my God, we're going on a weird path here. Like I was that way. But some people, for them, they're so emotionally invested in being, and I was this way before I got red pilled. Now, I was red pilled kind of in the 90s for reasons that have nothing to do with wokeness per se. It just, I was all about anti-war stuff, and I was like digging into this stuff. And then the internet, you know, you get more information on the internet. It was better for me as a guy who finds it hard to sit there and read a book. I have to force myself to read a book. It's hard. And now my attention span is nothing. But, you know, I would read this stuff and on the internet in the early days of it. And I would be like, wow, is this true? And then I drilled down into it and I was like, yes, it is true. My God, the military industrial complex, someone must do something. And then I got red pilled about it because I realized, like, wait a minute, the Democrats are voting for this crap too. Why didn't they stop George Bush? Why didn't they stop him? They didn't stop him because they were making tons of money. And they totally agreed with it. And so everybody has like a red pill moment that are anti-woke, I think. And, you know, and again, it wasn't necessarily for me about being woke, but just understanding that, you know, the establishment has a narrative, and right now it's a woke narrative. until they say it's not, and you'll watch all the sheep go, oh yeah, I've always hated that woke stuff, it's terrible. They'll literally turn on a dime, like they are with this beer virus. The beer virus, like a week ago, people are yelling at you about masks and all over Twitter and whatnot. Now, where are they? Who's talking about the terrible virus? We're all going to die. Who's running around about Brian K. Vaughan? Is he still running around LA talking about it, or is he now waving his Ukrainian flag? It's like, how fast do these people switch? It's ridiculous. And then you realize, oh, they're doing it because they want everybody to think they're a good person. And I was like that too, especially when I was a teenager. Oh yeah. I was like, I gotta support the Democrats. They're for the little guy. I'm for the little guy. I'm a good person. Look at me. Look at me, Mr. Meeseeks. Yeah. Congrats on being anti-woke, because you're one of the smart ones. So I got off on a big tangent. Did I ever finish my Batman story? I think I did. Yeah, I'm not paying an extra $1. Patricia Arquette got torched this week. I don't know if you saw that. For those of you who didn't hear about it, Patricia Arquette tweeted, "We should kick Russia out of NATO." I don't know what Brian K. Vaughan is doing. I unfollow them on Instagram. I unfollow anyone posting NPC crap these days. Yeah, I had to purge my Twitter a while back. It was ridiculous. I used to follow every celebrity on Twitter because I used to do this bit on Superfrat called Twitter in Focus, where I'd analyze a Twitter feed of some celebrity and make snarky comments. And then they got so political, I had to unfollow them all. My destiny is to pass butter. That's funny. Yeah, so Patricia Arquette, dummy that she is, in my view, post, oh, we got to ban, we got to kick Russia out of NATO, and then tries to say, oh, you know what? I meant the UN. I'm dyslexic. Yeah, dyslexic people, that's what they do, right? They always confuse NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, with the United Nations. They always confuse an organization of world governments with an organization specifically dedicated to fighting the Soviet Union. Basically, I mean, it was quite a misstep, and she was justly roasted. And it's not that even she made that mistake. It's that she is so high and mighty about her damn opinions that she thinks she can just keep posting and posting every thought that pops into her head on Twitter, and then not take the consequences when she does something this stupid. And now she just looks dumb. She just looks so dumb. Speaking of Netflix, Netflix asked federal court to block child porn charges over Cuties film. So remember Cuties, everybody? It was this crazy film about preteen girls twerking. They're in a twerking contest. And it is, I mean, I've only seen a few clips, and the clips I'm just like, this is a little too much. This is a little too much. And that's why I tried to cancel Netflix. I wanted to cancel Netflix and send them an email in a big huff. I'm canceling Netflix because of Cuties, you weirdos. But I can't cancel Netflix because apparently I'm getting it for free for something I pay for, I guess. I don't know. I tried to cancel it, but I'm getting it for free. And they literally said to me, we can't cancel it. You're getting it for free. But yeah, it's interesting that they're being sued in this way. And it's, of course, from Texas. So good on Texas, I guess. I don't know if they're going to win. But, something ought to be said to these people. It's a little much. If you've ever seen it, and I don't recommend you do, it's a little much. Social media should be renamed into emotional media because you can't really use them in a rational kind of way. People getting triggered usually. Yeah. And what I've always said is like, and I don't know how old most of you are, but I come from the era pre-internet. And the pre-internet days, we did have all these people, right? So prior to the internet, these people would get mad and they could maybe write a letter to the editor. Maybe. It wouldn't necessarily mean it would get in the paper, but they once in a while, one of these whack jobs would get a letter in the editorial. Not everybody would read it. It was a much slower process. Very rarely you'd have public television. People could, buy time on public TV if they could get it together. But you have to understand, most of these people, in my view, are mentally ill. They don't have it together at all. So because of that process, that longer process in the pre-internet days, 99% of these people never have voice. They never could do this stuff. They couldn't get it together to get a letter to the editor. They certainly couldn't get it together to buy time on TV just to scream their stupid opinions. But Twitter and platforms like it have made it so convenient and easy to do that and instantly get your craziness to the rest of the planet that we've now turned these people into superstars because they are so crazy. And then beyond that, it's a competition of crazy, of literally thousands and thousands of mentally ill people trying to out crazy each other. And some of them are fake, some of them are bots, some of them are grifters, but a lot of them are just nuts. A lot of them are just out of their minds. I mean, when you look at that tweet from Patricia Arquette, it's a little nutty in my view. It's a little nutty. It's just, and if she had had time to think and process, maybe she would have said to herself, if she had to go, oh, I got to write a letter saying that we should cut Russia out of NATO, and she starts typing the letter, back in the days of typewriters, and then she starts, well, let me look a few things up so I can write a better letter. And then as she's looking up, she'll go, oh my God, Russia, no, I don't mean NATO, I mean the UN. And then she would have corrected herself and at least had a coherent letter. Right? But that process, it's just like she's in her car in between going to Starbucks and the store, to buy like another Gucci outfit or whatever. And she hears something on the radio on Sirius FM in her car, and she stops and parks, and she's about to get out of the car, and she goes, oh, I'm so mad, I'm going to just type this tweet. And then, goes about her day, not processing and thinking about what she's doing. That's where we're at, I think, with media. Sean Penn, after Ukraine visit, this is not going to end soon, no matter what. Well, I mean, look, I'll hand it to Sean Penn. At least he goes to dangerous places. At least he puts his money where his mouth is. I mean, he was actually in the Ukraine. I think he's nuts, but okay, at least you went there. He probably knows something, but is this going to stop anytime soon? I think the news cycle will stop it. You're going to stop hearing about it when they're on to the next thing, whatever that is. Will Russia continue to fight them? Well, according to some people, they've been fighting in Russia, the Ukraine since 2014. This is just an uptick in the fighting. I don't know. What I hope is none of this escalates and that it only de-escalates from here. What I hope is Russia consolidates its gains, Ukraine cuts a deal with them, and they declare a ceasefire that eventually leads to peace. Everybody's miserable about it, but they all realize that they have no choice. I think that's the best we can hope for. So shut up, Sean Penn. Let's see. What else did I have here? Oh, The Boys actor Antony Starr gets suspended prison sentence over drunken assault. So this is Homelander. For those of you who watch The Boys, he got arrested in Spain for being drunk and disorderly, I guess. So there's that. Pete Davidson mocked for going to space with Jeff Bezos, saying he isn't going to get away from Kanye West. I have to say this about Pete Davidson. I'm not a huge fan of Davidson. He kind of annoys me at some level, but I got to say he's handling the Kanye West thing totally correct. He's not answering at all. He's completely ignoring it. Good on him. It's one guy in Hollywood that understands. I mean, he's a comedian, so he gets it. He gets that responding to Kanye just gives him more ammo to use against him. And if he just keeps ignoring it, eventually Kanye will run out of gas. So, you know, and I'll tell you, don't introduce your girlfriend to Pete Davidson. Don't introduce your girlfriend to Pete Davidson because he'll be banging her inside of a week if he likes her. Jane Campion speaks out on Academy decision. I would have included design. I don't know why we care about one filmmaker's thing about the Oscars. The Oscars is a disaster. ABC threatened to cancel the broadcast unless Academy cut categories from the live telecast. Does anybody here give a flying crap about the Oscars? I just saw a headline: U.S. Defense Department is preparing to switch to guerrilla war tactics in the Ukraine if Russia takes over. Have the Ukrainian government run itself abroad? Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? The U.S. would love that, by the way, because it'll be another Afghanistan. It'll drain their resources. It'll eat up all their time. All their focus will be on the Ukraine. But that's fine for Putin. Look, he needs those warm water ports. It's all about the ports. Oliver Stone posted some articles about the Ukraine to get a perspective, but in the first one, they can't even get the name of the German chancellor right. Yeah, I mean, look, Oliver Stone, he's not a total dummy, but he's probably seeing it through a more liberal perspective. I don't think he's really red-pilled, but he's not totally stupid. Haven't seen a single movie nominated for an Oscar. Yeah, no one has, apparently. No one's seeing these movies. The only one that looks halfway decent is Belfast. Looked kind of cool because it's directed by Kenneth Branagh. So that one looked decent. But, the rest of them, I don't know. And they were so desperate, they were thinking about nominating Spider-Man No Way Home for the Oscar. They've got this Twitter vote, which what the hell's going to be nominated? I hope Army of the Dead gets nominated. Zack Snyder tried to push a viral thing like, oh, let's nominate an Army of the Dead. Yeah, I hope they nominate Army of the Dead for an Oscar. And then I hope they laugh at the Oscars and laugh at you because Army of the Dead is just dumb. It would be a joke. It probably should win for visuals. I mean, it probably should win for effects. The clips I've seen of it look amazing, but looks are not everything. You need a story. And everything I've read about that story is like, that's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Nightmare Alley, I'm kind of interested in, but that's because it was a remake of an old 40s movie that's really good. Yeah, and it looked amazing, but a lot of people said it's no good. I mean, the buzz on it is bad. And I'm shocked because Del Toro's movies usually do okay, usually pretty decent. But, there's one guy, old-timey Hollywood guy that I love, of course, and he always works with a screenwriter. It's Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood. I mean, look at the movies he's made. The craftsmanship in those movies they're just so good. They're so, you just look at the stories in any Clint Eastwood movie, especially today. The original Nightmare Alley is fantastic. Everybody should watch that. Yeah, I've heard. I haven't seen that, but maybe I have to watch the original one. But the visuals looked really good on Del Toro's movie. But then again, I think really in movies, we've gotten to this point where the visuals have outstripped. It's just like comics. It's amazing the parallels between the comic book industry and the movie industry. In the comic book industry, everything started to skew towards the artist and the art, everything, at the detriment of the story. They would literally hand comic books that were halfway done to better artists and say, fix the story too. And they've done this. And I think that's what they've done in movies to a large extent. Not sure about the last Eastwood one. Looks like the last Terrence Hill movie. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that one, but I mean, so many of them are so good. And he listens to his screenwriter. So at least there'll probably be a coherent narrative, even if it's not great. I mean, it'll still be good. But man, the World War II movies he did, even that rugby movie, the South African rugby movie with Matt Damon and Morgan Freeman, I didn't think I was going to like it. Invictus, I think it was called. I didn't think I was going to like it. And I'm not a big sports movies guy. That's probably one of the best sports movies I've ever seen. I mean, it's fantastic. It's just so enjoyable. You know, and Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela is pretty cool because that like he's the perfect age. You know, he kind of has a good, he looks close enough to Nelson Mandela. And I love Morgan Freeman. He's a good actor. Gran Torino was great. Absolutely. High Plains Drifter, probably my favorite. Yeah. Classic. I love Unforgiven. I can't get enough of that movie. God, Unforgiven is just, it just blows me away. The ending of that movie. So good. So good. And it's such a tough grind. When I was watching Unforgiven for the first time, I'm like, oh man, how's this movie going to end? You're killing me here. You're killing me. Where's the gunfights? And then it gets to that end, and I'm like, wow. It reminds me of the ending of The Drop. The Drop is a lot like that, if you've ever seen that. That's not an Eastwood movie, but it's a great movie. Tom Hardy, James Gandolfini in his last official appearance. Fantastic movie. And Tom Hardy just steals the end of the freaking movie with the last monologue. And it just, you watch the end of that movie and you're just like, oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, if you haven't seen The Drop, you totally should. Let's see. Yeah, Oscars. Who cares about the Oscars? Renowned COVID expert Seth Meyers asked how much of a D is Ron DeSantis from Red State. So I'm going to end with ranting about Saturday Night Live. You guys know I love Saturday Night Live. So Seth Meyers, of course, was on Saturday Night Live, and every major trade. Again, I gotta be able to show these things. Tom Hardy is the best leading man to come out of Hollywood in probably the last 20 years. Yeah, he's really great. Although Robert Downey Jr. also great. But Tom Hardy has been brilliant. But SNL has not been brilliant. They're actually just embarrassing. All three trades, Variety, Deadline, and Hollywood Reporter, have articles about every episode, it seems, and about what they covered, what sketches they did. I mean, Deadline, SNL's Weekend Update tackles euphoria, criticisms, Pat Sajak's defense of Wheel of Fortune contestants, Florida's Don't Say Gay Bill, and more. It's like, what are you, an advertisement for SNL? Saturday Night Live Open features Tucker Carlson, Trump, and Fox News Pro Celebration, which is incredibly unfair. Robert Downey Jr. has been around since the 80s, though. Yeah, it's true. But when was Chaplin? No, Chaplin was before, he was still on the drugs. Where was post-drug? Post-drug would have been Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It was his first movie after the drugs. So that's when Robert Downey was like, although he was good before, but he wasn't like amazing. Although Chaplin, he was really amazing later, more amazing later, I think, after he got clean. But yeah. I met Robert Downey Jr.'s sister. She was trying to put a comedy show together. And me and some guys from college were going to be the writers. And we had this bizarre meeting in New York about it, where we met in her apartment. and we just acted like maniacs for like about 2 hours in the apartment trying to outdo each other with comedy. We weren't even talking to her really. It was ridiculous. What the hell is Euphoria anyway? I keep hearing people talk about that. Is a TV show starring Mary Jane from Spider-Man. What's her face? Zelendya or whatever the hell her name is. I don't know. It's supposed to be good. It's about high school, and I assume people taking drugs and doing things high schoolers and people would be shocked at. Chaplin was early 90s, I think. Yeah, I think so. But anyhow, SNL, yeah, it just annoys the F out of me that they won't stop doing politics on SNL. They just won't stop. And their politics suck. So I think their sketches suck. So what are you going to do? SNL is just a shell of its former self. And then they did this, they had the Ukrainian chorus Dumka of New York, did a thing on, I mean, you're going to virtue signal on the show? This was, there were wars all through the 80s and 70s. No one at Saturday Night Live said, "Oh, we gotta do something on the show to acknowledge this." No one did that because it was a comedy show and people wanted to do comedy. If anything, that would be the last thing they would ever do because they wanted to entertain people. Now it's like, oh, God, Saturday Night Live, you make me so mad. I was such a fan of Saturday Night Live. My whole life was dedicated to trying to get on Saturday Night Live as a writer. And now, like, if they came to me, I'd be like, really? Unless you're going to turn the boat around, I don't know what I could do for you. Unless you're suddenly going to make SNL super based. You're like, what am I going to do to SNL? What am I going to do to the show that you haven't already driven it into a ditch? I mean, there's so many things that could be done in terms of sketches today that Saturday Night Live just isn't doing. It's all being done on YouTube or whatever. Like any rando can do a cool sketch and it's funny as hell. I'll tell you who's great right now, Kyle Dunnigan. I just can't get enough of his channel. He does these deep fakes where he puts celebrities' faces on his face and does voices. Some of them are pretty spot on. He does Alec Baldwin. It just kills me. It just absolutely kills me. He does an Alec Baldwin. You got to watch his show. You got to watch Kyle Dunnigan. Check it out. He does Sly Stallone, of course. He does a decent Stallone. He did Vladimir Putin. Ryan Long. Yes, Ryan Long is killing it with his sketches. I just watched the one today or yesterday he posted about being a Canadian immigrant and suffering. And he goes into Times Square and he does a thing where he asks people weird questions. But he did this thing in Times Square about being a Canadian immigrant, like he was having a tough time. It was really funny. Yeah, Ryan Long's good. There's a lot of guys out there that are just doing great stuff on the internet. These guys should have been on Saturday Night Live. And back in the day, they would have been. Back in the day when SNL was kind of on the pulse of comedy, these guys, they would have scooped them right up. Now I pray every day that Saturday Night Live can't find them, that they wouldn't approach them because they're going to offer them a boatload of money, which they probably can't turn down, and neuter their comedy completely. I mean, the worst was when Chris Elliott was on SNL, and I love Chris Elliott. Chris Elliott's one of the funniest human beings to walk the earth. But man, they just wouldn't let him do what he does. It was rough. That was a rough couple of seasons. Awaken with JP is good too. Yeah, I like him. He's fun. I think JP needs to mix it up more with his sketches sometimes. But I like him. I think he's good. That guy's in shape, man. He's in shape. He is like him and his flowing hair and He is like a Conan and the comedian, as Howard Stern once called Joe Piscopo. How long can SNL exist like this? Will it just die out? Oh, God, I hope so. I mean, the problem is there's nothing up against it. There's nothing competing with it. And over the years, they've tried a few things, but I think ultimately they just gave up the time slot to NBC and said, and now who cares? Who cares about a time slot anymore? Now it's just an institution, a library, content. So it's a different ball game. In some ways, it's still JP is like a base Carrot Top. Yeah. Oh, Carrot Top looks weird though. He looks normal. JP looks normal. Carrot Top looks like a freak, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I think SNL is here to stay until television is dead. I think television now is kind of like the Matrix, and the concept in the Matrix was everything was trapped in the 90s, like that it was actually they gave the computers or whatever gave humans like a paradise, but they couldn't handle it, so they had to wind it back to a time which would make more sense for them, where things were kind of rougher. Yeah, it's just a vehicle for ideology now, and it'll stay that way forever. That's the sad thing about it. It'll just stay in the NBC library, I guess, forever. NBC will eventually, I think, become Peacock, which will just be a website on the internet for programming. And you can go there and you could subscribe, or, you know, maybe I think they'll eventually have to go. It's finally starting. I predicted this. This was my call, everybody. Disney, like a Rolling Stone, like Rolling Stone. Oh, like Rolling Stone. Yes. Yeah. Rolling Stone. Ugh, another institution like that disappoints me. Anyhow, Disney announced, I should have brought this article up. Disney announced they're going to do a cheaper version of Disney Plus with commercials. Now, it's not free. It should be free. Disney is making a mistake by still charging people money, but I guess they think some people will pay it for a cheaper version of Disney Plus with commercials. Why would you want to pay with commercials? The whole point of the commercials is you don't pay. So I think Disney should make it free. I think they're only in the planning stages, so maybe they will. But it should be free with commercials, just like a TV show, just like a network. But it's on the internet. Now you don't have reruns, or you don't have, you don't have a library for the free stuff. You just roll it out, or maybe you do. I don't know. I don't know what the ratio is to storage versus streaming. But Adult Swim does this. They got a library. You can watch some of their shows. There's commercials on them. That's what I do. I sometimes go to Adult Swim to catch some of the shows I missed, or watch some of the old ones that I liked. So this is the way it should be. You should have a streaming service online that's streaming 24/7, and you're just playing stuff all day long with commercials. Commercials you can't turn off. Just like the old TV days. And have a schedule like the TV Guide. You go there. Maybe you could click something to give you an alert, shoot you an email or alert or whatever on an app saying, oh, your TV show's coming up in about 5 minutes. You better get ready. And just make it for free. Then I would watch a few handful of shows on Disney Plus, or, I could watch Archer again, or I could watch Bob's Burgers again. I'd watch all these shows again because it would be like regular TV. It would be free, as opposed to the ridiculous cable bill that I'm supposed to pay for the 2 or 3 shows I watch. No, thank you. It's like another $100 to get cable TV now, to get enough channels so I could see the shows I actually watch. They used to all be on 3 networks. Now they're everywhere on every other friggin' network that moves stuff. So annoying. You want me to pay all this money? No, I'm just done. I'm done. Done with regular TV. Either broadcast the S or give me something streaming. And the best part about streaming too is you could put me in a little corner, right? And I'm talking away, blah, 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 and you could do your work. That's a great thing about TV on the internet. I can have Archer or Bob's Burgers or whatever, running up in the corner, and I could still write and do, well, I can't really write, but I could still do stuff. I could still check out things. And this is what I do all day. So that's the model I think we're headed towards. It's taken forever. I'll certainly be able to review more if that's the case, but I'm not paying all this money. There's too many of these things. What are you going to do? I mean, yeah, there are some people, they just buy subscriptions to everything and they barely watch it. They're making a fortune. But anyhow, I have rambled on long enough. My God, we're almost at a 2-hour stream. Sorry about the technical gaffes earlier in the stream. I hope you had enjoyed the stream today. Any final comments or question, now is the time to post. Thanks for tuning in. As always, check out my books. That's right, Joan, my books. The Pineys books 1 through 8, comedy horror in South Jersey. Wokistan, a novel. Hollywoke, another novel about some of the stuff we talk about here. Oh, what else do I got going? I got t-shirts. Got the Web Comic Factory, of course, at the webcomicfactory.com. Today is Miserable Comedians. Superfrat at superfrat.com. That's about it. Check me out on the Lotus Eaters on Monday. All right. And last comment. Great stream, everyone. Take care. Tony and Joan, thank you. Hollywood ate my baby. And we'll see you in the next one.